Kenya will be deploying her force or the police force to the US in the coming weeks. This is expected to send about 1,000 police officers to Haiti. This comes at a time when President William Ruto will also be touring the US. Welcome to the Bold Analysis. My name is Frank. We would like to remind you to continue subscribing to our YouTube channel if in case you're new here, and you can turn on the notification bell so that you can be the first one to be notified whenever we upload new videos. Now, Kenya is set to send about 1,000 police officers to Haiti peacekeeping mission, something that hasn't augured well with a majority of politicians in the country, especially from the opposition. This cannot just be said that the opposition only. Maybe even those in government, who knows? They just don't want to speak for fear of reparation. Now, just before we delve so much into the Kenyan peacekeeping mission in Haiti and President Ruto's planned visit to the US, it comes at a time when the IG of police, that is the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Japhet Koome, has proceeded on a leave that is away from work, and he has been a critical point in the organization and to the run-up of this critical mission to Haiti. This now leaves us with some pending questions that are to be answered. For one, when IG Koome proceeds on leave, this means that he has currently about 4 deputies, and the Constitution of Kenya is not clear about which one of the deputies is to take over his roles on an interim basis until the day that he will return or wherever the IG is incapacitated. Now, there is this video of Mr. Japhet Koome talking on the peace mission to Haiti and on how Kenya is prepared and has lined up its organization of the same trip. I just want you to take some few seconds of your time and watch this video.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe let me, I wish I proceed this way. What I intend to first respond to is the number and the ranks of officers of the National Police Service proposed to be deployed in Haiti. So the breakdown is as follows. It is in 2 components. We shall have the headquarter team, then the formed up units. Under the headquarter team, we shall be the overall command of this mission. And we intend to have an officer not below the rank of an Assistant Inspector General commanding the mission. We shall have a Chief of Personnel at the rank of a Commissioner of Police, a Chief of Staff at the rank of a Commissioner of Police, Chief of Logistics also at the rank of a Commissioner of Police. In this, the headquarters, we shall have an intelligence wing, because this will be an intelligence-led operation. We shall have investigators and other support teams, like signals, among other technical services. Then formed up police units. We intend to deploy a total of 5 senior superintendents of police. Then we shall have a deputy formed police units commanders, again 5 superintendents of police. Then support service officers, intelligence officers, as I mentioned, operations officers, liaison officers, duty officers. This will be a total of 25 who will be assistant superintendents of police. Then we shall have platoon commanders. We intend to have 5 platoons, a total of 25 chief inspectors. Then, of course, their deputies, we shall have 25 inspectors, platoon sergeants, and senior sergeants, a total of 25. Then we have section commanders, these are the corporals, a total of 135. Constables will be 655, making a total of 1,000. Honorable Chair, honorable members, let me address the concern on the specific tasks and responsibilities that the deployed police officers will undertake in Haiti. So the first one is providing overall command of this mission. We are going to provide the leadership. We shall be the lead country. We are going.
Now, there is something that is baffling, or rather raising concern about the deployment date of these forces and Ruto's travel to the USA, that is. This is, Ruto will be in the USA at about, on sometimes around 23rd of May this year to around 25th. And this is the time that this peacekeeping mission is intended to get to Haiti. Now, ask yourself, are there vested US interests, or is US trying to play some pleasing games towards the Ruto administration, and in particular in concern with the Haiti mission? Don't you see some kind of coincidence? Is it a mere coincidence, or it's something that was designed by nature? Because as per the board desk understanding, this peacekeeping mission to Haiti was supposed to proceed to Haiti within some time in January at the beginning of this year. Now, the deployment comes at a time when Ruto is also expected to be in the US and address a joint sitting of the Congress. Now, this now brings to question, when the former Prime Minister of Haiti, one Mr. Oduor, visited Kenya, when he was planned to return to his country, he didn't gain entry into his country. He was lost somewhere in between the airspace. And later hours it emerged that the Prime Minister wasn't able to get back to his country, Haiti, and was forced to resign. And a transitional authority was established to look into the issue of getting another PM for Haiti. Now, this brings us to the question. There is also not clear date of when the police is expected to, that is the Kenya police, which is expected to lead this mission, is expected to arrive in Haiti. This might be due to, one, the negative reception of the PM could be something that could repeat itself when Kenya police lands in Haiti. If the Prime Minister of Haiti was given a warning that you will never step your foot again in this country, and now the Haitians, even the gangs, have warned the Kenya police that don't risk coming to our country. Now, we understand that there was some senior or underwater operations to ensure that the Haitian Prime Minister was somewhere in the US before him attempting to gain entry into Haiti. Now, we understand that this is the same script that the US is trying to take with the Kenyan police. They want the date of deployment to be something that is not something that is public or within the official record, so that the Haitians and especially the gangs could just be surprised that actually the Kenya police is within their country, to remove that aspect of negative acceptance. In an interview with the CNN, former US Special Envoy to Haiti, one Mr. Daniel Lewis Foote, whose picture you can see on the screens, delved into this Kenya's special peacekeeping mission to Haiti and said one-on-one that the reason as to why the Kenyan president was so much interested in this Haiti peacekeeping mission is because he's interested in eating the money that US is offering to Kenya. That is what he said one-on-one. On a one-on-one interview. He didn't like quote his words. It was just one-on-one jab or punch, if you understand it that way. Because we understand that the US had committed about 14.2 billion Kenya shillings for Kenya's peacekeeping mission in Haiti. And it's not the US alone. Even countries like Algeria in Africa had committed billions of shillings to Kenya as part of its support to the Haiti mission. And this now brings in the aspect of the billions of shillings at disposal that Kenya is likely to get in its peacekeeping mission to Haiti. Now, this even opens more room. We know our country. This opens more room for things like appetite for this money from the political class. They've made their calculations so clearly and they are targeting something. We'll talk about that later within the video. Now, the US also has sent private contractors in specific and in particular to construct barracks for the Kenya police so that it could enable them carry out their mission in Haiti with success. Now, you ask yourself, why is the US so much, I don't know for lack of a better word, but so much in thoughts with the Kenyan, or I don't know for lack of a better word, why is the US so much interested actually in Kenya being the lead peacekeeping mission to Haiti? Yet there are countries with so much power and technology in terms of combating crime and organized criminals like the ones in Haiti. Why is it so much obsessed actually with Kenyan force taking part in this mission? And now the focus of our discussion in this video or in this podcast is on the correlation of Ruto trip to the US with the Haiti peacekeeping mission. Number one, we think as the board desk that maybe the US will give their funding during this trip. You know, since they pledged to support, to offer 14.2 billion in support of this trip, that money has been held on hold until at a date when Kenya shall be successful in getting to Haiti. Maybe it is during this Ruto's trip to US that they want to offer this money to Kenya. Who knows? That is why it would be a correlation of his visit to the US at a time when the Kenyan security forces are also expected to get to Haiti. Now, this comes after a long wait, as we have stated, because we expected the forces to be in Haiti by sometimes around January at the beginning of this year. Of course, there were backdrop of challenges. The court, of course, nullifying that the National Security Council doesn't have any legal mandate to send forces out of this country, especially the police force, out of this country on peacekeeping missions. But then the president went ahead and said that the mission is unstoppable. Not just the president, even, of course, the cabinet secretary in charge of Interior and Coordination of Government Affairs. Now, anyway, we understand that with the cabinet secretary, he was speaking as a mouthpiece or because his leader had spoken. So maybe he didn't have any otherwise. And that is why we also saw the Inspector General of Police, IG Japheth Kome, also saying that the mission is totally unstoppable despite the court orders and advice on the same. Now, if the US will give their funding during Mr. or Dr. Ruto's visit to the US, we understand that there are billions of shillings and not US alone that is offering this money. So, and there is also the aspect of US meddling in internal affairs of countries like Kenya. So, convincing Ruto to be in the US at a date when the peacekeeping mission to Haiti that he has received so much resistance is said, it means that they just want to extend what they're used to meddling into the affairs, especially internal affairs of the country, such as Kenya. The US presence in Kenya since coming into office of one Dr. William Samoei Ruto has increased, and this is a trend that this is something that US is so good at. You can't beat them in this. Once they step foot into your country and they decide that they want to seriously meddle into your internal affairs, you can't stop this, because this is something that this is an art they've learned over the years and over time and perfected it within their political structures and organization. Number two, the second reason as to why we are trying to link the correlation of Ruto trip with the Haiti mission is on the America wants, of course, credit for the success of the Haiti peacekeeping mission. We've seen them. By an extension, they will be using the Kenyan police force, because with them maybe they've calculated and they've seen that the gangs in Haiti are too dangerous. The gangs in Haiti are too dangerous, and there are people who are ready for anything. Now, that is why they extended an olive branch to the president of Kenya, Mr. William Samoei Ruto, such that they could accept sending Kenyan forces into Haiti. And the success of this, I know that they will bankroll this. They will do anything possible such that the peacekeeping mission is successful. So they just want to take credit. After this success, they would want to take credit that actually, you see, it is an American ally that has won this, or that has contributed to the peace process in Haiti. And on the flip-flop of this, not just before the flip-flop, a case study in point is a US foreign diplomatic policy, especially on war, with a country like, for example, Ukraine. You've seen the strategic positioning of the US in as far as the issues in Ukraine are, and the kind of support that they've extended to Ukraine in combating the Russian forces. And this is even visible in Israel's war with the Hamas. So they would want to take credit for this. On the flip-flop, this would be a win-win situation for Ruto, who is the president of Kenya, and also for the Kenyan government. Because why would it be a win-win situation? Because Ruto wants to be seen together with this country, Kenya, as the superpower of Africa. That is why when he was on that trip to South Africa, he spoke as somebody who was rattled. He spoke tough, and that is why the US now started listening to him. He said that with them as African presidents, they're tired of the notion of being bungled in a single vehicle or in a bus, then transported to some conference somewhere. He said that he wants a situation where he's called on a one-to-one platform and they discuss critical issues. That is when now the US started following up closely, or continued following up closely on one Dr. William Samoei Ruto. So this would be a win-win situation for Ruto in terms of his positioning as a key ally of the United States of America in Africa. Another reason, another factor to peg on this, we've seen here in Kenya, the current US ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman, has been a close confidant of the current regime. You see her almost everywhere within the policies of this government. Of course, issues like the World Bank support and other loan structures that Kenya is receiving from the West are revolved around Kenya's diplomatic relations with the US. So therefore, Kenya could not reject in any way this request by the US, that is the United States of America, to send or second her forces to the Haiti peacekeeping mission, in as much as it looks more of a security concern peacekeeping mission, especially on the safety and the capability of our forces in this mission in Haiti. Number three, the third correlation on the Ruto's trip to US and with the Haiti mission is on something that majority of Kenyans that we've interacted with, they actually, there is a big percentage that it actually confirms to them something. It's on the issue of Ruto returning favor, or confirming, it confirms actually that Ruto is returning favor for the 2022 general elections. Yes, I know this one, on this one, we will disagree to agree. But there are Kenyans that up to this day today, you can't convince them otherwise that the US didn't meddle with the Kenyan 2022 general elections. So, the timing of this deployment and Ruto's trip to the US, it actually confirms something about that election, that especially with the US heavy foreign policy presence on Kenya's local issues and matters. It confirms something that actually Dr. William Ruto would be returning that favor of actually you help me settle into office, or you help me one way or the other within the 2022 general elections, and that is why now I have to be there for you when you need me. And just look at the timing. I don't know whether it's a mere coincidence or it's something that was designed, but we here at the Bold Desk tend to think that it is something that seems to have been designed by default. But that is something that we leave up for you. Maybe you can tell us in the comment section, is it something that you think that it just came out as natural? Because for one, the deployment was supposed to come at some time in January, and now it has been slowly sluggishing until up to a point when Dr. William Ruto is set to address the US Congress in US. And as Kevin had mentioned in an earlier podcast video, this is foreign visit away from business to business deals that he's going to make in the US. He's also going to address a joint sitting of the US Congress, and this is something that was last done by an African head of state 18 years ago, and that was by one President Helen Sirleaf Johnson of Liberia, if I'm not wrong, about 18 years ago. And now you look at the fond relationship and the friendliness of the US to Kenya, especially since Dr. William Ruto came into office. We know, of course, there is the issue of when President Uhuru Kenyatta was the president, Kenya's foreign policy was so much inclined towards the East, and this is something that America wasn't at peace with. That marks the end of our analysis on the correlation of Ruto's foreign trip to US and the Haiti peacekeeping mission. Continue subscribing to our channel and turning on the notification bell so that you could be the first one to be notified whenever we upload new content. Thank you.